It was a quiet Monday morning when Mark Dalton, a man in his mid-40s, boarded Sky Express 707, a flight operated by his own airline, Dalton Airlines. Most passengers didn't recognize him. Mark preferred to keep a low profile, even though he was the owner of the airline. He enjoyed blending in, watching people without them knowing who he was. Today, he was on his way to New York, hoping for a peaceful flight. As passengers settled into their seats, Mark noticed a young woman a few rows ahead of him. She looked nervous, glancing around frantically. Mark assumed she was either a first-time flyer or had a fear of flying, and he smiled to himself, remembering his own early flying jitters. Meanwhile, Cindy Cameron, a flight attendant with a stern demeanor, was making her rounds. She had worked for Dalton Airlines for a few years, but was known for her condescending attitude toward passengers who didn't look the part, especially those who didn't wear designer clothes or carry fancy luggage. As Cindy approached Mark, she handed him a menu with a cold expression, barely meeting his eyes. No smile, no warmth. Mark noted this behavior but decided not to make a scene. He just wanted a quiet flight. A few minutes later, Cindy returned with a tray of drinks. Mark asked for coffee. "Just coffee, please," he said politely. Cindy barely glanced at him as she rolled her eyes, seemingly annoyed by his simple request. As she handed him the coffee, she intentionally tilted the cup, spilling hot coffee on his face. Mark flinched in pain. Cindy quickly apologized, though her face gave no indication of sincerity. "Clumsy me," she muttered, offering no help to clean him up. Mark wiped his face with a napkin, feeling the burn but maintaining his composure. The woman across from him noticed the incident and whispered, "I've never seen such behavior from a flight attendant." Mark nodded, keeping his cool. He was determined to handle this situation with grace, but it was clear Cindy had no respect for him. Throughout the flight, she continued to give him the cold shoulder, favoring other passengers who appeared more worthy of her attention. Mark didn't say anything. He wanted to see how far Cindy would take it. As the plane descended into New York, Cindy made her final announcements. Mark stayed silent, but his patience was wearing thin. When the plane landed, he waited for the aisle to clear before making his way to the exit. Cindy, as expected, barely acknowledged him. She gave him a curt nod and moved on to the next passenger. "Goodbye, Cindy," Mark said calmly. "You may be hearing from me sooner than you think." Cindy blinked, confused, but shrugged it off. She had no idea who he was. Mark stepped into the terminal and immediately called his assistant, Rachel, a no-nonsense woman who had worked with him for years. "Rachel, set up a meeting with HR and the flight supervisor in New York. I need to address an incident from today's flight." Rachel responded immediately. "Of course, Mr. Dalton. Should I prepare any specific details?" Mark paused. "Yes, please get me a full review of Cindy Cameron's service records. It's time we had a serious conversation about professionalism." The next day, Mark arrived at Dalton Airlines' New York headquarters. Rachel had already gathered the reports. Cindy's file was troubling. Numerous complaints about her attitude, many echoing the same issues he had experienced. Despite multiple warnings, she had managed to keep her job. At 10 a.m., HR manager Tom Reeves and customer service head Lydia Coleman joined Mark in the conference room. After introductions, Mark shared what had happened on the flight, detailing Cindy's rude behavior and how it affected other passengers. "Thank you for bringing this to our attention," Tom said. "It's disappointing to hear Cindy's behavior hasn't improved despite the warnings." Lydia added, "We pride ourselves on customer service. We'll handle this properly." Mark raised his hand. "No need for just a talk. I'd like to be present when you speak with her. This is about our values and our customers' experience." Tom and Lydia looked surprised, but agreed. They knew Mark was serious. A few hours later, Cindy was called into the meeting. When she walked in, she froze, seeing Mark sitting at the table. Mark's expression remained calm, but Cindy's face turned pale. She stammered, realizing who he was. "Please, sit down," Mark said, his voice steady. Cindy sat down, trembling. "I didn't know who you were. I'm so sorry, Mr. Dalton." Mark held up a hand, stopping her. "Let's put aside titles for a moment. What I expect from every employee is respect and professionalism. It doesn't matter who the passenger is or what they look like. What matters is how you treat people." Cindy lowered her eyes, her face a mix of embarrassment and fear. "We've reviewed your service record," Lydia said. "This isn't an isolated incident. You've been given several chances, but your behavior hasn't changed." Mark leaned forward, his voice soft but firm. "We provide support to help employees grow, but we can't allow disrespect to continue. This isn't personal. It's about doing what's right for our customers." Cindy didn't argue. She knew what was coming. Mark's decision was clear, and she had no defense. "Unfortunately, Cindy," Mark said after a pause, "I don't think you can continue with Dalton Airlines." Cindy's eyes widened, but she didn't protest. Mark's decision was final. Lydia handed Cindy her severance package. "Today is your last day with us," she explained gently. Cindy took the papers with shaking hands, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you, Mr. Dalton. I'm sorry." Mark nodded, his expression serious. "I hope this teaches you the importance of respect and kindness. It costs nothing, but it means everything." Cindy left the room quietly, knowing she had lost her job. Mark took a deep breath, feeling the weight lift off his shoulders. He had taken a stand, not just for himself, but for every passenger who deserved to be treated with dignity. As he left the office, he felt a sense of quiet satisfaction. He had done the right thing, and it was a reminder that no one should ever be treated with disrespect. And that was the end of the story. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the story, like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating tales. Have a great day.